Scott Roush, Blades and Swords. William Hovey Smith, 2013. I'm the author of Backyard Deer Hunting, and this is from the 2013 Atlanta Blade Show and Living Ready Exposition.
This is Hovey's Outdoor Adventures, and I'm talking to Scott Roush, and we are at the Blade Show in Atlanta. And Scott here, well, he sort of makes some neat looking blades. Scott, how long have you been at this iron pounding business?
I've been at it for about 5 years now.
Well, you have done an amazing piece of work for being just 5 years into the program. Now, most people who are in the 5-year era, well, they make things sort of like this. And Scott does too. Nice, utilitarian, Damascus steel knife. Could you tell us just a little bit about this? What's the handle material?
That handle material is artifact walrus ivory. It's probably 5,000 to 6,000 years old. It was probably used by Inuits or Eskimos for some sort of tool, and they recover it and salvage it, and I buy it. It makes beautiful handle material.
Yes, sir. It makes a beautiful knife. Now, you also do hatchets. Now, about this one. Now, hatchets are a little different. They require a bit of different forging and also a piercement for the handle, obviously. And that's probably the most difficult part of the whole process.
Yeah.
How did you manage it?
Well, this one here is special in that I'm using a forge welding technique that goes back to the early Viking Age, or maybe even before that. And it's, you basically forge out a tang and you just wrap it around and hammer it and forge weld it in, and it makes a naturally formed eye that you can put a handle right into it.
So the back is actually split and then joined at the end and a hollow left in the middle. Is that the style?
Yep.
All right. Now, for the main event. Now, you have been inspired by, well, some Celtic influences, some Viking influences, some medieval influences from the Renaissance, this whole period of knife making.
Right.
Now, you have a Celtic sword. Would you show us that?
This is a little bit sort of in between that period and the early Viking period, and it's got some influences from both in these designs here. The hilt has been cast from bronze, which was a common way to make hilt components. The grip is fossilized walrus jawbone, which was commonly used in the Nordic areas because there were a lot of walruses there, and it makes a beautiful handle material. The blade is forged exactly the way the Celts and the early Vikings did their work. They didn't have a single piece of steel to make a blade from, so they had to combine multiple elements together, combine them all together, and eventually they learned that they can also form a work of art through the patterns in the steel that go down the blade. So this blade is made from 5 individual bars welded together, and the center bar is made from about 60 total layers of different types of steel.
So it is indeed a type of Damascus steel. Now, one neat thing about this blade that you might not be able to see at this distance. So let me, why don't you walk up toward the camera with the blade again and point to the fuller.
Okay, the fuller is this hollowed out area down the middle.
Yes, now that is the difficult part.
Yeah, they're hard to grind, but they have a distinct purpose. There's sort of a myth that these were called blood grooves, but it wasn't really for that. It was for weight reduction. These swords can be quite heavy, so you want to hollow out and remove material down the middle to lighten the blade.
But nonetheless, you do have 2 reinforcing spines here and here.
And it's that also makes for a very strong cross section that's sort of shaped like an eye, which you see in I-beams on an actual building architecture. So it's a strong way of making a sword.
Okay, well, step back and let me step out of the way here, and I'd like you to swing the blade.
Now, these sort of swords required a different way of handling than long-handled medieval swords. They required a dynamic grip. You want the sword to move in your hand. If you hold it stiff like a hammer, it's got a limited motion. But if you hold it in a more dynamic way by choking up on the grip and loosening it, then you get a follow-through that makes for a much harder hit.
Okay. All right. Now we have, for serious fighting, a double-edged, double-grip broadsword. Now, most people last saw a sword like this in movies like, well, Braveheart, for example, was the last one I saw where the broadsword was particularly featured. And it allows a double grip, so you could really slash left and right with this with great enthusiasm and destructive force.
Yes. This sort of sword, you can slash with it. Its main purpose was armor piercing. It's very quick sword made for thrusting. But you said you can also slash with it. It's got a fairly thick cross section in the blade so that you can pierce it into plate armor, have it glance off that plate and find chinks in between the armor plates. So these were designed for combat against people that were fully armored, which is a common theme you see in swords. Swords had to evolve with the evolution of armor.
Well, indeed, it was the classic arms race. The armor improved, and so the instruments to pierce it improved, then the armor improved, then firearms came along, and the armor improved, etc., etc. A never-ending cycle. All right. Well, you have done really an amazing amount of work with these instruments for being involved in bladesmithing in so short a time. And particularly, as I understand, you have just now acquired an air hammer.
Right.
All this stuff was done pound, 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 pound on an anvil. Whoa!
Yeah, I did have a press that helped too, but you have to do a lot of handwork until you get the power hammers.
Yes, sir. Well, what's next? Are you going to go into calculus and siege engines?
Well, maybe with my son, but I want to keep making swords and increase my level of detail and just get it to the point where I'm just pursuing a work, taking it to a point where it becomes a genuine work of art. I want to combine the realism of handling, profile, and geometry, but add as much artwork as I can to the piece in terms of engraving and inlay.
Indeed. Now, where can people go online and find out about you and your swords and knives and axes and anything else you might take a mind to make?
My website is bigrockforge.com, and I've got a gallery on there, and you can contact me directly through my website or my email address. It's scott@bigrockforge.com. I do take orders now. I'm actively seeking commissioned orders for swords because I enjoy doing that sort of work, but I also do hunting knives and kitchen knives and axes as well. So just give me a shout and we'll get out an order.
Well, thanks very much, Scott, and we look forward to seeing what you bring us next year.
All right.
Here are close-ups of Scott's knife, also his hatchet, and his Celtic sword, as well as details of the handle on his Viking broadsword and two-handed sword. Now, I'm the author of Backyard Deer Hunting, and among my other books are Crossbow Hunting, Extreme Muzzleloading, and Practical Bow Fishing, and all these are available as e-books. I also have an 8-book e-book series. Muzzleloading for Hunters is published, as is Buying Used Muzzleloading Guns, Shooting and Maintaining Your Muzzleloader, and Hunting with Muzzleloading Shotguns and Smoothbores. For more information on Scott's Blades, now go to his website, www.bigrockforge.com, and for my books, blogs, videos, and release dates of my short shot books, go to my website at www.hoviesmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye and God bless.